Hey guys, Jill here from Ask About Tech. Today we're going to be talking about how to make a feed station for grit and oyster shells for chickens. So building this station, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need 2 rabbit type feeders. You're going to need some screws that are long enough to hold the feeder to the wall. And you're going to need a drill bit, and a drill driver that matches the screws that you're going to use. You're going to need a ratchet set, a scrap piece of wood, some electrical tape or very thin tubing, and optional stickers. And I can leave a link below where I purchased mine, so you can purchase yours if you'd like. All right, let's get started. The brand that I purchased is Pet Lodge. This is a rust-resistant, heavy-duty gauge galvanized steel feeder, meaning that it is not going to rust out. It is not going to just end up falling apart. It is heavy duty. You just want one that does not have a mesh on the bottom or screen. You want it to be a solid bottom. And it also has a way that you can attach it to a metal cage if you choose so. For me, I'm going to mount it to a board and I'm actually going to screw it on. The reason I'm doing that is because I have 2 turkeys and they are rough on everything. Tom would bust this off in a heartbeat if given the opportunity. So this green line shown here in this picture is where there's a very sharp edge. And when I purchased them, I wasn't aware that that was very sharp. I've fed rabbits out of these before and never had an issue, but chickens have a comb and it is soft. And I could just foresee them sticking their head down in there when it starts to get low and catching their comb on that, and we have a big bloody mess. So I decided to take a proactive approach to this. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I ended up using electrical tape and I laid it down and I did 3 sheets of it, or 3 strips of it. And the reason I did this is because electrical tape is pretty sticky. It usually withstands being in moisture, sticks well to itself, and I figured that it would stick well here. And then I did 3 layers of it because I wanted it to be nice and durable and I wanted it to be thick. You could also use something like a hose or a piece of rubber or something like that that you could stick on there that would not come off, but this is what I had and this is what I was using. Try not to spend a lot of money on a project like this that goes into the chicken coop. And then I opened up the top and I wanted to make sure that it wrapped all the way around that sharp edge. And it stuck really well with no issues. I ended up having to do 2 little strips to hold the ends together, and I still probably would do that even if I would have measured it correctly, just to make sure that it is going to stay and be secure and I don't have to worry about it again. It's just done. And if you do things with farm animals, you know that you like things that are just one and done and you can use the system and not have to adjust it. So I did this for both of the feeders that I made. I cut the tape and I stuck it on there. I didn't want any chance of anybody getting bloody over this. Originally, I had thought that maybe I would use this little slot back here to hold the feeder against the wall with just some screws and it'd be super easy peasy. That's not the case. Most of the time, there's a little index card that's slid in here. If you had some wire that you could kind of run through that, you might be able to secure it that way, hanging it up sort of like a picture. This is a board that I just had laying around. It's a piece of pine. So the holes I'm drilling right here, I drilled like a pilot hole so that I could be able to get the screw to go through. And you want to do that just a little bit bigger than the actual size of your screw. And if you're using screws you found around the house, I just eyeball it. So here I am checking to make sure that my screws will actually fit through the holes that I drilled, because nothing would suck worse is be half assembled and not be able to get your screw in there. So I checked both sides. That one did not want to go. So I had to take it back out and drill it again. And when I did that, I just basically moved the drill around a little bit in a circle to kind of waller out the hole. And lo and behold, it fits just perfectly now. We're good to go here, so we can take those screws out and get our board marked where we're going to be drilling some holes into the wood. So here I am marking some little black dots about where I need it to be, and then I just guessed a little bit. I knew that I was in line with the holes and I needed to come down just a little bit so the back of my feeder would rest against the board. You could screw this right to the coop if you wanted, using bolts and all kinds of other things, but this is what I had and this is how I decided to proceed. From here, I just tipped it up on its end so I could see what I was doing. And then I started the screws in there. I was using a bit. These screws are T25s, I believe. And so it has like a star bit. It was getting to be kind of a pain in the butt trying to screw it in with my fingers, so I used a ratchet, a 1/4-inch drive that held onto the bit that I needed to tighten these screws in. And then I just ratcheted them down. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It looked like this. I had it in the on position. I just ratcheted it until I was flush with the board. Just like that. Now on to the next one. So we're basically going to rinse and repeat, only we're just using the bigger feeder this time. I'll save you all of that. We rinse and repeat, do it a second time, and then we're going to assemble it just the same way. We're going to put it onto the board. We're going to hook it on there, ratchet it down. After we got all that done, we needed a couple more screws so that we could screw the board that is holding onto the supplement feeders to the coop. And here we go. We're going to screw it onto the coop. This is just a runner board along the bottom side of my coop. I was going to be assembling this on the coop all by myself, hold it with one hand and drill with the other. And here we are, going to screw in that other screw. See, I put it right in there. It's just ready to rip. All I got to do, put some pressure on it, put some power to the drill, and get her secured. I do not think Tom could knock that off if he tried. And this is what it looked like before I filled it. As you can see, it's not going to be easy for them to open them. We're going to use some oyster shells and some poultry grit. First up, oyster shells. Now, if you've never seen oyster shells, they are white and gritty and very powdery, a lot like chalk. Now, this is what oyster shells looks like up close. Now, grit. Grit is also very powdery. This is what grit looks like up close. Both are very vital to chicken health. Now let's see what the ladies think. Now I have 40 chickens, and trying to judge who needs oyster shells or who needs grit in a day is a pretty big challenge for me. I decided I was going to make this external feeder that goes on the outside of my coop just so I can offer supplementation for my chickens. They will always have access to grit and oyster shells all the time. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. If you know someone who has backyard chickens, feel free to share this information on with them. If you've never heard of crop impaction, I did a video on it, and I'll post that right up here so you can check it out. And remember, I'm here for you. You're here for your pets. Have a great day.